Good morning. Hello. Okay, I'm there. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Morning, Sara.
Good morning, Hank. How are you?
Hi, thank you. Just setting up the computer so that it casts to the wider screen.
Okay.
I will be back.
All righty.
After my class, I'm going to work on the letter to Ursula.
I don't know what they did in terms of traveling exhibit that Miriam was talking about. See, she never got back to follow up on
No,
that.
Hello again.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh my. This was an unexpected snow.
Oh, I don't need this. I really don't.
It's going to be
I-
gone by this afternoon. It's going to be in the upper 40s.
Well, I went out and cleared the car off a bit last night, but there was a layer of ice underneath it. And I wasn't going to attempt that at 10 o'clock
No.
last night.
It
Yeah.
started with ice, but that's going to be
Yeah.
gone shortly.
Yeah. So I'm letting the sun do its work.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm going to.
Good morning, Cantor.
Hi. How's everybody? How you doing, Sarah?
All
Good
right.
morning.
How are you?
Good. Am I a co-host or not?
You are.
Okay. Great. Okay, and Karen, you're a host. That's
I'm fast.
all right. Should we just practice the
Sure.
okay. So I do screen share, right?
Uh-huh. Woo. It worked.
Yay.
No, wait, there's still one more thing I have to do, and that is you won't be able to hear it unless I do something with the sound, and I have to remember what that is.
Musician.
Where do I find that, Karen?
Up on the, on my computer, it's up on the top. That's okay.
Wait, screen share. No, audio, I think.
Audio is on. Why don't you hit play and let's see if we hear it.
Okay. Can you hear it?
No.
No.
Okay. So that, yeah, I have to do something. Okay. So let me stop share and figure out what I got to do here. So do I, mine, it's on the bottom, but what is it that I'm looking for?
The only thing I know, because I don't know how to do this, is where it says original sound for musicians and it's off.
Oh, I got you on the top there. Okay, original sound music is on. Now let's try this again. Share. Can you hear it now?
Yes.
Did you hear it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
May I ask who IS1305 is, please? Can you open your camera or tell us who you are? Oh, Barry.
Hi, Barry.
Okay.
You don't have to keep your camera on. Yeah, just
No, but at least I know who it is. That's all that.
good to see you though.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I see you got on.
Yep. It was questionable there for a minute.
We've had a tech check too, so
We're getting very professional.
we're getting there. Yeah.
They're running on.
So, Susan, when did you come home?
Yesterday.
Oh, how was the drive up?
It really wasn't bad. It Traffic wasn't too bad and the weather cooperated, so no complaints. And it was very easy for me. Larry did all the driving.
Yeah, but you had to hold the app for Google.
Oh yeah, the Waze, yeah. And I had to stay awake to make sure he stayed awake.
That's the hardest part.
Cantor, I have a question. I sent you the 2 poems. Is it possible at some point for you to pull that up so
Yeah,
that
I'm
we could
going to try
include
that.
it?
I do have them open, but I'm just that I'm a little less sure about with the screen sharing. But I will try. I guess we
Okay,
could.
and that's just so for the recording, if people wanted to look at them, they'd be able to see them.
Those are the poems. That's not the lyrics to the song, though.
No, not the lyrics to
Yeah,
the
oh,
song, the 2
okay.
poems I sent you. Yeah, yeah.
How you feeling, Marion?
Doing okay. Coming along slowly,
Ay, ay, ay.
but thanks for
Feel
asking.
better.
Thank you.
Missed you on Shabbat.
I'm trying for next Shabbat.
Oh, yes.
All good. And Susan, you're back.
Back
I recognize your background.
temporarily.
Oh.
Yeah, using my desktop instead of my laptop is so nice. The screen's so big. I can see everybody.
That's what I do. I don't use my iPad. I use my big computer.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Susan wasn't home. I
Yeah.
would use her computer.
Hi, Barry.
So do you think we should start? Do you want to wait another minute or?
You're pretty close to everybody here.
Okay. So I know we're in for another wonderful and enlightening, interesting session, always with Sara teaching. I really feel badly I missed last week's, but I'm going to try to watch the recording if I can find that. But we'll hand it right over to Sara, and you'll let me know, Sara, when I need to screen share, okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Cantor. We're delighted you're here this time, and thank you also to everybody who is here. Before we begin, I would like to remember someone who attended any session like this that I led, and also my book discussions, and that is Aliza Rosenberg. She was always very supportive. She shared her extensive knowledge. I got a lot of feedback from her. And I remember once she didn't like a book we read in the book discussion, which was The Secret Chord. And she didn't think it was historically accurate. So as always with Aliza, if she was going to offer you a criticism, it was very fact-based and knowledgeable. So I just want to say that I was thinking about her as I was doing this research, and that we miss her voice at times like this. So last week, I spoke generally about the women who made the Exodus possible, and specifically about Miriam providing continuity between the beginning and the end. Just a quick recap, if you were not here, or just to catch up, I quoted Judith Plasko, that the most striking examples of women's silence in the Torah comes from texts in which women are often the central characters. And I noted that, of course, a lot of scholarship, especially from Jewish feminist writers, is that we are looking to fill the narrative gaps between these lines where we feel that something is missing. Last week, we stopped at the Song of the Sea, and we read 2 poems that I hope contribute to our understanding of Miriam. The Muriel Rukeyser poem, which places Miriam standing very much a force in ankle-deep water and singing forever. I think that image reinforces Miriam's significant role, not just because she danced and sang, but because she is, and I'm going to talk about this today, part of a triumvirate of leaders, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. The second poem was Miriam Argues for Her Place as a Prophetess by Chava Ram. And this is Miriam's direct statement to her brother Moses, telling him that she saved him through her cunning, restored him to his mother, and contrasting their lives, which they lived after that, but reminding him that they were both chosen. And the final lines of the poem indicate her readiness for the Exodus, and that she's got those bells and timbrels packed and she is ready to go, which is the perfect place to begin this session, Cantor, with Debbie Freeman's song. Leslie raised her hand.
Yes, I just have a question, Sarah. I didn't get the name of the author. Is it Chaya Rome? Can you spell
Chava
Chava? Okay.
Ram, Romm. And I have had great difficulty getting information on her. This poem is quoted extensively in many places, and I've just not, been able to get that. Muriel Rukeyser is, a famous American poet, so much easier to get. So yeah, Chava Ram.
Okay. So I was kind of looking a little bit online and I didn't have the name right. And I was just a little bit mixed up. So thanks.
Okay, you'll
I'll
find
try
that
again.
spelling. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So Cantor, whenever you are ready, we're going to hear Debbie Freeman's Song at the Sea.
And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang a song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every thread and every strand she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances for the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women dance and dance all night long. As Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land? And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women dance and dance all night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice with song, she sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're going to dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women dance and dance all night long. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women dance and dance all night long.
What can I say? The joy, the jubilation. I mean, you can hear Miriam singing. I think I would have loved to have heard that song performed live, because it makes me want to get up and join in and dance. Cantor, you have any thoughts on this song? I mean, we all are familiar with the work of Debbie Friedman and remember her always, but what are your thoughts on this?
It's actually her yard site, I think this coming week. Next week, no, it's right around now. Yeah, but in any case, so I think that one of the things that she did so brilliantly was to make, whether it was text or stories, or not just stories, but the certain things from the either the Siddur, the Torah, making them or just experiences in Judaism to bring them to the people. In other words, this is a song that's not intended to just be performed. It's intended to be sung by everybody. It has a refrain that is so catchy, and that you sing along. So making these her music is not just to entertain. It's also to educate. It's to uplift. It's to touch the soul, and to bring these different aspects, whether it's stories or people or prayers, to really bring them to to us. And I think she did it brilliantly with this particular piece. I also enjoyed, and I actually was looking for something to play live, but I enjoyed this, the one that I shared. I thought the artwork was actually, the different ways that Miriam was depicted, and with the different styles, different timbrels, some even from like the Disney, world, but it's it's wonderful to see that Miriam is finally now recognized as a major leader in our Jewish history. So,
Yes.
Debbie Friedman absolutely helped bring that to the, with this song.
Yeah. Anybody else want to say anything about the song? Because I definitely wanted to include that. No one? A book that I used in my research is something that I found at the library book sale. It's called The Women of the Hebrew Bible, and it has wonderful art in it, some of which is included in the, in the song that you use there. So yes, bring it all together: the poetry, the song, and the art, to give us a picture of Miriam. So unfortunately, we're going to leave a very joyful occasion, and the ecstatic singing at the sea, to the next occasion in which Miriam appears. Pardon me, and this is in Numbers chapter 12, verses 1 through 16. If I'm going to use the time, and of course, I went to the wrong place. No, I'm in the right place. All right, confusing myself. And I want to spend some time talking about this because
Can you repeat Numbers? What?
Chapter 12, verses 1 through 16. Bamidbar, Baha'alotcha. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So we're all familiar with this. And I would say this is the most problematic event in the Miriam narrative, and that the extensive commentary on this event supports that there's much to evaluate and understand here. All right, so I'm on page 833. When they were in Hazarot, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman he had married. He married a Cushite woman! Exclamation point. Okay, I'm going to take these separately. So to begin, the cause of this complaint, if it is a complaint, is unclear and open to interpretation. So the feminine singular is used to suggest that Miriam is the speaker, and that would explain why she alone is punished. The rabbis say that the Cushite woman was Zipporah, Moses' wife. But what flaw do Aaron and Miriam find in her? What has she done? So Midrash says that Moses had abstained from sexual relations with his wife from the time of the giving of the Torah. Is this some reference to that, some criticism of it? And how would Miriam know about it? Midrash also suggests that Miriam observed something about Zipporah's appearance and led her to question. And Zipporah's response, of course, is that her relationship with Moses has not been the same. There's even a parallel drawn between Miriam's concern for her brother's marriage and what we spoke about last week, her concern for her parents' divorce and their need to remarry. Another way of looking at it is this slander? But if it is, what is the slander? So I want to look at this comment first, and then we'll move to the next statement, which is a little more serious. So is this slander and gossip, evil speech, lashon hara? What's going on here? Your thoughts? Karen, I can't see hands or anything, so I'm going to rely on you here if there's somebody who unmutes or wants to say something.
Leslie, you're the only one unmuted. Did you just want to say something or?
Well, I'll say something, but I like to keep it unmuted because I don't want to have to deal with the mute unmute. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different interpretations, as Sara said. You know, I kind of think that, you know, it's such a short sentence that there are so many ways to interpret it. I don't know. I mean, I think, I don't think it's slander. I think maybe Miriam was just making an observation and it got blown out of proportion, as many things do in life. And it just kind of snowballed, you know, not in her favor, I guess, is how I would interpret it. Also, like you said, you know, maybe, you know, she had strong opinions. You know, she talked to her father and she was, you know, not shy to speak. So maybe she saw something amiss with her brother and whomever, she made a comment about it. You know, we all know people who like to talk. And so I think personally it just got, you know, kind of steamrolled out of control on that. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Anybody else with a thought on, you know, slander, gossip? You know,
I just have a question when reading the text where it says Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses, and they said, how do we get to the point where Miriam takes the blame for this?
Okay, we'll try to get to that. Yeah, exactly. The they.
I mean, even in the Hebrew, it's plural. It's not feminine. It's okay.
Okay.
Sarah,
Yes, Marion.
I think they see her as the other. She's not part of the tribe, and so they're looking to criticize.
But we don't know what they're criticizing. I think that's the matter that's unclear. So whether it's gossip or they're not happy with her. Yes, we know Miriam is outspoken, but we're not certain what is being criticized here. So I'll set that aside, and I'm going to move to the second statement, which is, they said, has the Lord spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us as well? Aha. Okay, so now this statement is the one that will certainly result in consequences. The Lord heard it. Now, Moses was a very humble man, and I'm going to return to that as well, more so than any other man on earth. Suddenly the Lord called to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, "Come out, you three, to the tent of meeting." So the three of them went out. The Lord came down in a pillar of cloud, stopped at the entrance of the tent, and called out Aaron and Miriam. All right, so all three of you come, but he's going to address Aaron and Miriam. And this is what he says: "Hear these my words. When a prophet of the Lord arises among you, I make myself known to him in a vision. I speak with him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is trusted throughout my household. With him I speak mouth to mouth, plainly and not in riddles, and he beholds the likeness of the Lord. How then did you not shrink from speaking against my servant Moses?" God departs. The cloud withdraws from the tent and reveals Miriam stricken with leprosy, right? So I will say that the second statement, we're questioning, the nature of the first statement, but the second statement suggests that Miriam and Aaron are challenging Moses' leadership role. Of course, some would say, well, they share leadership with him. But in response to the statement made by Aaron and Miriam, God calls all three, but only addresses Aaron and Miriam. And God indicates that Moses occupies a singular status with direct access to God, who speaks to him directly. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs has a very interesting reference to this statement, and he calls it Moses' et tu, Brute moment. I like that. That he has been betrayed and slandered by those closest to him, and yet Moses doesn't seem very affected or ruffled by it, and seems very calm in the face of this challenge. So I'm going to digress a little bit here, then we'll come back to the humility and the leprosy. Rabbi Sachs says that you have to look at the challenge to Moses and his reaction in the context of what comes just before this. And the Israelites have been complaining about God and not having enough food, right? We know there's lots of whining and complaining. So this is one of those instances. But Miriam and Aaron complain about Moses. Moses has recently experienced despair, and at one point just before prays to God to die because he thinks he's been a failure. This is where God suggests that Moses gets 70 elders to share the burden of leadership. So, although Moses is challenged by those closest to him, according to Rabbi Sachs, he is calm in the face of his siblings' outspokenness. And, I think that he knows his siblings. He's the baby brother. Maybe he doesn't feel quite as challenged as he does when the people complain a lot, and he feels unable to respond and feels despair that he has not responded. So before I go on, any thoughts there?
So if God is angry at Miriam and Aaron, why, and they're both prophets, why is it then that Miriam is punished? Well, let me rephrase. Miriam is punished, but is the reason that Aaron is not punished is because Aaron has more interest in Moses' success and not Miriam. After all, Aaron is Moses' mouthpiece.
That's interesting. Any other thoughts? we'll talk about that. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah, Leslie. We'll come back to you, Len. I saw Leslie's hand. I'm sorry, I didn't see yours. Leslie.
Yeah, I think maybe just expanding on what you said and thinking about, our own lives here, especially if you have siblings. I know my own family, I have 2 siblings, and sometimes, you have, big issues that are affecting your life personally, like maybe Moses has, a lot to deal with as a leader, and then he has his 2 siblings who are complaining to him about a personal matter. And sometimes you just got to block it out and, just don't give a lot of attention because it's either immaterial to yourself or it's not that important right now. So maybe that's what's going on as well. Moses has a lot to think about, a lot to do, and now his siblings are coming and complaining about, a personal family matter. So maybe that's why he's quiet. He's like, I can't deal with this right now. I got my own problems to deal with.
Okay, so you're distinguishing between, the family conflict and all these people who are saying, we want some food,
Right. Like bigger problems.
bigger problems, and he needs help there. Okay, thanks. Len?
Yeah, I had 2 thoughts. One is that perhaps Aaron does not get afflicted with the skin disease, or as does Miriam, because Aaron needs to stay in a state of ritual purity. After all, he is now the chief priest. He can't perform any of the duties of the high priest if he has any kind of skin blemish, because we get to a parsha that is all about skin blemishes and other blemishes, and you have to be outside the camp and all these rituals that go along with that. So he can't be messed with his skin anyway. Maybe punishment comes in other ways for him. The other thought I have is that, remember, this is a literary text. It was read orally, and the oral tradition predates the written tradition of reading the Torah, and you needed to have dramatic tension as a literary text. And what better way than to have family internecine fighting and conflict? We have it all through Genesis, and now here, and we have it in there are other places where the people rise up against Moses. Who are you to have such a special, gift of prophecy? What about us? You find these motifs repeating and creates tension, and especially family tension, which is at the core of it, particularly in the Genesis stories and the Joseph story that we just finished reading, and now in the Moses story as well. So it makes for a compelling text from a literary standpoint to have these kinds of fighting and struggles in them.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? And then I'll try to pull some elements together. Karen, do you see anybody else? I'm not seeing everybody. Okay. So interestingly, I do think that the issue of the status of Aaron and the purity of the priests, I think Len has a point there that that Aaron can't be stricken with leprosy. I would also point out that I've read that the actual period of time in which Miriam experiences leprosy and the time in which she is isolated is shorter than what would have been required. It's a week, not 2. And in the case of Miriam, and I think this is very important, a couple of different ways to look at it. God orders Miriam to be shut out of camp, and the people don't move on until she is able to travel again and is better. Now, we can read that 2 ways. Her illness caused a delay, or the people value her so much that they would not move on. They insisted on waiting. So I don't know which that is, but I think there are 2 ways of seeing that. I want to go back to the humility issue, then the one that Rabbi Sachs has written about. So it's it's the reference to Moses' humility is referred to when Aaron and Miriam are chastised for speaking about their brother. And he suggests that what God says to Aaron and Miriam indicates that Miriam has erred in her evaluation of her brother, who is not to be judged like others. Hands off Moses. You know, this is a man humble like no other, and therefore you can't single him out and speak about him in this way. Also, I like this quote. Those who have, this is Rabbi Sachs, those who have humility are open to things greater than themselves, while those who lack it are not. That is why those who lack it make you feel small, while those who have it make you feel enlarged. Their humility inspires greatness in others. I was thinking of the world when I read that. So, so we'll get back to the leprosy here.
Sarah,
Yeah.
I wonder, hold on. I'm sorry. I wonder if part of her downfall in terms of the way God looks at Miriam is that maybe she wanted to take credit for things that she should have stepped back and let Moses take credit for, like Song of the Sea.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I don't know. She is outspoken. We know that. Yes, we know that. And I think, you know, what we read of her spirit and how she steps forward, you know, we've used the word bold to describe her. Perhaps you're saying it's in moments when she might step back. So both brothers do try to intercede on her behalf, just as, all right, Chaim points out, by the way, that just as Miriam once saved Moses, so he does try to save her, El Na Refanallah, right? Begging for God to heal her. But she is shut out, and she is never heard from again. She doesn't speak again. She in the text again until her death. So, you know, well, let's talk a little bit about that. Phyllis Tribal writes that Miriam understands leadership to include diverse voices, but speaking out costs her dearly. Aaron is rebuked, as we have said, but he's not punished. It may be that his status keeps him from being punished, certainly not in the way that Miriam is punished. But Miriam disappears from the narrative and is not mentioned or heard again until her death is mentioned in Numbers chapter 20, verse 1. So this is one of those places in the Torah where I think women struggle because they really do want some more here. And here we are left with having to analyze these two statements that are made and the ambiguity of actually who is speaking. If the translation is they said, and that the worst statement is the one that is the challenge to the leadership of Moses. And instead, you know, Miriam is punished and ostracized and gone after that. So what I want to talk about is your response to something like that with the look at it from the beginning where we see her at the river waiting, you know, for Pharaoh's daughter to come and find Moses, to this. And then we go from this joyful exuberance in the Song of the Sea to this next incident where she is punished for having said something that is a challenge to her brother's authority. So, your thoughts? Fill in the gaps. What do you want to go in there? If I were in the classroom, that's the question I would ask. What do you want in there? Fill it in. What happens between the time of this incident and her death? Does she maintain a minor role? Is she never outspoken again? Is she just there in the background? Or is her relationship with her brothers, is that healed? And are they able to go forward together?
Marion,
Something else is going to happen that we have to talk about.
Marion has, oh, okay.
Go ahead, Sue.
I have a question. So while she was out of the camp, was that the point where there was no water?
No, there's always water when she's there.
Right, but when she was out of the camp, wasn't it, am I misremembering that it's at some point there was no water in the camp because she wasn't there? Wasn't there something about?
After her death, there is no water, and we will talk about that.
Oh, it was after her death.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. But the idea is that wherever she is, there's water.
Right.
You know, that's wherever Miriam is, there's water on the journey.
Yeah, because I was thinking if it happened while she was still alive but out of the camp because of the leprosy, was it that maybe and after she was punished, that she was afraid to say anything because she didn't, this is me filling in the gaps. She didn't want to, endanger her people.
No,
but it doesn't happen that way.
Nothing to suggest that there's no water, and the people wait for her, right?
Right.
The people wait, and at times. So Miriam was shut out of camp 7 days, and the people did not march on until Miriam was readmitted.
Right.
Which I like to interpret as they're saying we're going nowhere without Miriam.
But the water thing was later. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about
Never mind.
Marion?
Yeah, I would, excuse 1 second. I was also focusing on water because that played a very big part in the survival of the people. So even though we don't hear her voice, the water flowed, and she obviously had a following because it was so important.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. I don't think we can deny that, her role, which I see as leader of the women, right? And the dancing in the Song of the Sea certainly reinforces that. But when I fill in the gaps, I see her as the older sister to whom Moses listens or may consult. We know Aaron is his voice, but I see Miriam also as a guide. And, I don't have siblings, but in a relationship with siblings, I would assume here that this older sister who has watched over him is someone to whom he has turned. And I choose not to think that the reference to the Cushite woman is necessarily a slur against Zipporah. It may be, but it may not be. And we have no way of knowing what was meant. We can analyze and provide our own. Yes, Wendy, hi.
Hi. I'm just wondering if the leprosy is just a sign of some sort of an illness that she's having, and that's just a way to explain that she's aging and taking less of a role. And maybe it's just, the reality of an aging person.
No, she's punished. This is a punishment.
it's a punishment, but maybe it's the way of the Torah saying that someone has aged out of doing something.
Hmm.
You know, that she's older than Moses, so she may, I mean, she could be anywhere from 10 years older than him to maybe even more than that. And maybe it's just sort of a way to say she has some sort of a disability or something as she ages and, you know, going into retirement.
I have no definitive answer for you. I can just say it's an interesting thought to fill in the narrative gap. So I would hope not. Being forced into retirement, I would hope not. I think what you know, as I said, we don't hear about her after that until her death. So it certainly is a forced retirement, if you will. She's got to take a back seat, and that is what occurs. Leslie.
I think Miriam maybe felt, put in her place a little bit, but I think she had the support of the other women. It just didn't get written down. But I think, she was a leader, and even if it didn't make the Torah, um, because of the water, I think she was maybe had her own women's group. I don't know, but I think she had support. It's not written about. So that's kind of how I look at it.
See, we are writing midrash here. That's the whole idea. That's what the feminist scholars want. We write our own. We provide, we provide what we think might be. I have a problem thinking that she just sits it out until her death, because nothing indicates before that she would. And I realize when I'm doing that, I'm looking at her as a literary character. And, characters in the Torah can't necessarily be seen in that light. It's not a novel. But interesting that yeah, would she not continue in a leadership role, even if we don't hear about it? So anybody else? Otherwise, I'm going to move to something.
I have a question. Do you,
Yeah.
and this is to Cantor Wallach also, I wonder if Debbie Friedman had not brought Miriam to the forefront, and I don't think if it had been done by a male cantor or a male songster, it would have had the impact that Miriam's song has had on Miriam through Debbie Friedman. Would we over the last 20 years paid as
Obviously,
much
it's
attention?
impossible to know that because we have it, and I once tried to research. There aren't that many other songs of, really about Miriam. Len, do you know other, other songs that have been written, over the last, let's say, 50 or so years about Miriam?
Yeah, isn't there the Miriam Hanavi? There is another ditty with Miriam. That
Well, I mean, people have put the words to Eliyahu Hanavi to Miriam Hanavi, yeah, but that's also relatively new.
right?
Thing.
Yeah, but
But
no, not that I
there
know
really
of.
aren't. So, I mean, Karen, it's entirely possible that that this, that Debbie Friedman succeeded in what she tried to do in, making Miriam more of a, a figure that is known as a leader, and her role in, in the Song of the Sea. So that's entirely possible. I don't think we'll ever know if we didn't have the song, because we do have it. And by the way, Debbie Friedman's yard site was yesterday. Looked it up.
Oh, it was around now because my dad's is, but
But
yes, obviously she's mentioned in the Haftorah because that's where for me, the conflict is, did she write Song of the Sea or did he write Song of the Sea? But I don't know that we would have paid as much attention to it without Debbie Friedman's
But
her
yeah,
into history.
based on the video that you showed, obviously there's a lot of art out there that depicts her. Yes, a lot of it is much more modern art, but I think there's even some classical art where she's depicted. So, you know, maybe visual art takes longer to spread than music, but
Well,
Classical
we
artists
can
like
talk
to keep
about
women in
some of
general, so.
we can talk about some of this when we talk about the legacy of Miriam, which I want to get to, the modern interest, if you will, in Miriam. So I want to get to her death. This is Numbers 20, verse 1. It's Hukat, and in the Etz Chaim, it's on page 884. So I'm just reading. Miriam died there and was buried there. Next line. The community was without water, and they joined against Moses and Aaron. So I think this is what Susan was referring to. And that's pretty much it for Miriam. But I found, again, this is Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. He has some very interesting commentary about Moses' bereavement following the death of his sister. And we have to look at the incident again that precedes the death of Miriam, because Moses gets very angry, loses control. The people are complaining about the lack of water after Miriam's death. And as Rabbi Sachs says, 40 years of Moses doing this, he might be expected not to react to the complaints and all the drama, but he does. And Moses does something that he is not supposed to do. I'm going to go to page 885. And this is verse 10. Moses and Aaron assembled the congregation in front of the rock, because God has told them, you go to the rock, right? And I believe they're to speak to the rock. But Moses instead says, listen, you rebels, shall we get water for you out of this rock? He raises his hand and he strikes the rock twice with the rod. Out comes the water. Out came copious water, and the community and their beasts drank. Aha, but now Moses is in trouble. And we know what he gets his punishment there, because God says to him, you know, you're not going on with the people. You didn't do what I asked you to do. So let's talk about why he did what he did. And this is Rabbi Sachs. So according to Rabbi Sachs, the people who may have lost water, but Moses has lost his sister, who had watched over him as a child, guided his development, supported him over the years, and helped him carry the burden of leadership of the women. So in his grief, Moses has lost his prophetic spirit. This is something it was unfamiliar to me. According to Rabbi Sachs, grief banishes prophecy, which explains why Jacob didn't know that Joseph was alive all those years. Moses is in, I'm quoting, an onslaught of grief, vulnerable, exposed, caught in a vortex of emotions, suddenly bereft of the sisterly presence that had been the most important base note of his life. Oh, do I love that line. That is a wonderful line. And so I'm going to continue to quote, because I really liked what I read here. The story of the moment Moses lost his confidence and calm is ultimately less about leadership and crisis, or about a staff and a rock, than about a great Jewish woman, Miriam, appreciated only when she was no longer there. And so, you know, having read this analysis, I thought, well, you know, for many people, the Miriam story ends with the affliction of leprosy. And yet, this very interesting analysis of Moses in bereavement and mourning on the loss of his sister. Once again, people are complaining, and he doesn't want to deal with that because he is in mourning and loses control. And there's a reason why. Any thoughts on that?
I was just going to say, Sarah, and as Miriam, as we know, represents the Mayim, the water. How often do we even see it, in our lives, in our society today? We take water for granted, and then we don't have it. Wow.
Yes. So, because I'm looking at the clock, I wanted to move on to Miriam's legacy, and then we can pull everything together, that we're thinking. So, she saves her brother. She participates with Aaron and her brother Moses to lead the Exodus from Egypt. Phyllis Tribal calls her the inaugurator of a performance and composition tradition of songs, drums, and dance. The Israelites refuse to move on until she is healed. At her death, the wells are said to have dried up. And I read this, I thought this was interesting. There's a midrashic interpretation of the cupbearer's dream, which is in Genesis 40, right? We know the story of the dream interpretation of the cupbearer. But there's this interpretation, that the three branches of the vine from which the people of Israel emerged. There's Moses, he's the manna. Aaron is the pillar of cloud. And Miriam is the water. And these are the three gifts that Israel received by merit of its three leaders, those three, and all three disappear on the death of Moses. I read in a book I mentioned, The Women of the Hebrew Bible by Mickey Raver. She says that Miriam's tale both stings and heals. We are inspired by her boldness and audacity, but we are told to remember, right, what happened to her when she's punished with leprosy. That's sort of, don't forget that happened. Isn't there a prayer where that is said, you must remember, what happened to Miriam? So I began with Tikva Freimer-Kensky, and I'm going to end with her. So she says that, and I mentioned this a little bit before, the Bible gives us characters' actions in a particular context, and narratives to readers can often feel incomplete, and women very often feel that the female characters are not fully developed. But there are also male characters that aren't, they don't have full biographies. And she says, however, these partial images have been a spur to literary and poetic imagination, and I would include there Debbie Friedman's song, any poetry that's been written about Miriam. We remember Miriam in prayer when we add her name to Moses. We acknowledge her at Pesach with the addition of our Miriam's cup to our Seder tables. And so for me, as I said at the onset, this is my second favorite Miriam. And I just think this is such a very important character in the Torah. And although we might not like the abruptness with which the narrative about her ends, there is so much. I think there's so much for discussion. There's so much interesting commentary. And, we add to it as we have these discussions. So I'll ask to hear from you if you want to sum up or mention something that I've referred to.
Marion?
Would love to hear from you.
Yeah, you were talking about art and Miriam. Well, my name is Miriam, and I was given this. Can you see it?
Yes.
It's a paper cut of Miriam with Moses
Uh-huh.
Putting the basket in.
putting the basket in the reeds.
Yes, that's lovely. Thank you. Len?
Yeah. In terms of songs related to Miriam, something else occurred to me. in many synagogues, prayers for healing include the words that are said to heal Miriam, El Narafana Allah, and there are so many melodies for El Narafana Allah, and that is part of Miriam's legacy as well. So there's that. I'm also reflecting on the etymology of the name of Miriam says something about her character. Miriam Mar, of course, means bitter, like maror, right? Bitter, mir, and yam are seas, right? Seas, right? So water. So it's kind of a mix, bitter water, or bitter seas, whatever kind of the conflicts within Miriam or her life are epitomized by her name, by her very name.
Anyone else?
Sarah, as far as I know, the Bible is silent about, it has no reference to Miriam either being married or having offspring. But I think there's some midrashim that try to tie her to Caleb, one of the
Caleb,
spies, and is it her who helps hold up Moses's arms, the splitting of the sea, and that her lineage goes through the tribe of Judah. Do you know anything, or is that all just
No, I mentioned this.
speculation?
I mentioned it just briefly at the last session that yes, she's never referred to as a wife or a mother. However, I did read that she was said to be the wife of Caleb, that she was the mother of her, but there's nothing to support that. So I don't know. I don't know what that means. So there's midrash, there's this. Cantor, do you know anything about this?
Not anything more than, but I'm just thinking like maybe the image of her sort of, saving Moses from the sea, from the basket, she sort of represents her mother, like she stands in as, her mother. So maybe you can see, I mean, it's an odd thing, like Moses clearly, her brother, but maybe she takes on that role a little bit of mothering him.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. So yes, Barry, what you know is also what I have read, and nothing definitive anywhere.
Amy?
I just feel like reviewing the Miriam narrative that at this point in time, women were more powerful. Behind Moses, behind every successful man is a woman. Miriam was the reason he was successful. It was Miriam pushing that she led the women, and they got all the jewelry and everything to leave the Exodus. That and I don't think women ever, with her death, I think that was pretty much it for really powerful women. Maybe there's a couple of exceptions here and there, but I just felt like this was a story of women in power.
Amy, maybe that's the reason Zipporah was not popular. Because she did not come out and support Moses.
Right.
In support of Moses.
It's certainly interesting that in Shabashira, the Haftorah is Deborah, and that's certainly a powerful singular woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also with gaps in her story.
So don't forget, Zipporah was responsible for the circumcision of the children. So
Speaking of Deborah,
did a lot.
Wait. What, Marion?
And so behind the scenes, she was doing a lot in supporting Moses.
So
to go and save the people.
In the Freimer Kensky's book about the women of the Exodus, she includes Zipporah in that group of the midwives, Pharaoh's daughter, Miriam, and Zipporah, because yes, she has a contributing role. So we can't forget her. Yeah, Len?
Yeah, and speaking of Deborah, in the Haftorah for Shabbat Shira, listen to Debbie Friedman's song about Deborah, the prophetess. She has done for Deborah what she has also done for Miriam.
Okay. So Cantor, do you have any concluding remarks about Miriam that you would like to add?
I think we should petition to have Miriam added to the one we bless our daughters on Shabbat. Sarah, Rachel, Rebecca, Leah, and Miriam.
And Miriam, yes.
Idea.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for all the work that you put into this. For you always, so well prepared, teach us so much, and I truly appreciate your expertise also as a teacher and a facilitator of discussion. Just the questions that you ask really get us thinking and have everybody engaged and involved. So thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Definitely.
I love the research. I learned so much myself. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Yasher Koach.
Thank you.
Before the group
Sarah.
leaves, can I put in a
Thank you.
plug for those, because seeing who's here, I imagine one or more might be interested in this. There are two Substacks. I don't know exactly what a Substack is, other than it's an online offering. But there are two offered by the daughter of one of my closest friends. The daughter's name is Alyssa Wald. And one of them is called Jews of the Universe, and the other is called Judith. Judith is a Substack whose mission is to feature Jewish authors who have been in the current anti-Semitic milieu, been sidelined and silenced. And she provides a forum highlighting some of them and just alerting people to seek them out. Jews of the Universe is Alyssa Wald's response to October 7th, and it's a little spicy in its language, but outspoken, zealous defense and highlighting of a lot of issues that I know concern all of us. They're available gratis, although she does welcome donations, and it's become a full-time, more than full-time activity for her. So if anybody's interested, I can certainly make the links available. But if you look up Judith and Jews of the Universe and Alyssa Wald, W-A-L-D, some of you may find that very interesting. And the stories she's featured have really been inspirational.
Thank you, Barry. And you'll get more information, but next Monday, join us as well. Jamie Peteshin is scheduled to lead a session on an overview, historical overview of the prophets. He's not going to get specifically into too much about any one prophet, but more of an overview. And then hopefully he'll continue and do more on that. That's what he's interested in teaching. So, but for now he said he has one session planned. So that's next Monday at 9:30. Thanks
Thank
again,
you,
everybody. Have a
Santa.
great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Ending for all.